time to vote for our annual election of members, of the board members. Those of you that have been here a while are aware of that we have an executive board, and if you are one of those positions, just raise your hand and we'll put you on the slate. At the same time, we have 13 directors at large, most of whom are here. We are always happy to take nominations for additional directors at large. That's a way to join our board meetings. We have a Zoom board meeting once a month, and to learn how the guild operates, what we do, how we do what we do. And that's how you could get involved and someday, become an officer. There we go. Oh, there we go. That's our executive board. The officers at large right now. Fred Ball is here. Just raise your hand. Berg is here. Bill Gady is not here. Tony Bigliotti's not here. Kevin Goulet running the IT. Rich Herbert is not here. Larry Last is here. There's Larry. Dave McCaig. Ray. Dave is membership, newsletter.
Everything.
Cameraman, everything. And Ron Ross, picnic chairman, co-chairman with toys, apparel chairman.
Food.
Okay. Food chairman. So a lot of our standing committee members coming from the officers at large are doing multiple things. We would very much like other members to join us and share some of those responsibilities. So now would be the normal time that I would take those nominations and we would vote. Anybody want to nominate or themselves or somebody for the executive position?
You always nominate someone sitting next to you.
That's his name first.
We've all been in our positions for many years. We're happy with it. This will be my 7th year now as president. But I started on the board one day, and then a couple days later I was president. It happens that way sometimes. But okay, if there's no nominations, I offer that slate as is. We'll do it for the whole. Yes?
I move to accept by acclamation. Second.
There we go. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Guys, I guess it's us again. So.
Is this the kind of election where the winner asks for a recount?
Also, though, seriously, at any time, come up to any of us on the board. If you'd like to become an officer at large, it's real easy. You join. And we have a Zoom meeting once a month, like I say, as a board meeting. And it's very low pressure, low key. It's easy to do. And it's a chance to get involved.
It's captains. And a new item, a hoodie. It's not too heavy, but I'm sweating. These are $35 without a name. So if anyone's interested, see me sometime during the meeting, preferably after. We're collecting it for the toy program. If you're still making something, we can let us know, either Dan or I, and we'll make arrangements to get it from you. Either you drop it off at our place. Dan lives in Southgate, I'm in Plymouth.
And you guys will be sending me that info, and I'll forward it out to everybody in an email.
Yes.
So,
and if we need to, we can set up a location where if there's more than one person, maybe we can set up a location to have a drop-off, and Dan or I would be there and pick it up from you. Okay, thank you.
with that, if everybody's bought their raffle tickets, we could go right into the tool raffle. We have the normal 3 items that Ed Stuckey buys, and then one of our members, Steve Rick.
Getting better.
Rick Sands donated a little vortex, Oneida type thing that sits on a 5-gallon bucket. So that's back there. I'm not getting in the heat right. This is done.
Keith?
So you got. Okay.
Hey, dust collector, what everybody needs.
Everybody needs. As usual now, we have no meeting in December. So just a reminder. But our January meeting, guess what? And all future meetings are not going to be here anymore. They're going to be in the new Livonia Senior Health Center. It's about 50 miles from here.
Right around your neighborhood, Jerry.
It's half a mile down 5 Mile Road. That way. Half a mile, brand new center. None of us have seen it yet, but we're told it's big, beautiful. It's 2 stories, but our meeting room is on the first floor, and I think we'll be able to just walk in like this, but we'll see it. I'll be sending out all the information with the new address. Plenty of time. I'll send plenty of reminders, so you know. Be in what's called the cafeteria. I don't know yet. They're having an open house tomorrow and Wednesday for the public, and then there'll probably be more. So, no problem, and it's real close. On a sad note, most of you probably know now that our esteemed member, longtime member Ken Wolf passed away in September.
They had also that one of the founding fathers of this group and a past president, Father John Rokas.
Father John?
Father John Rokas.
Okay.
He became a priest at age 52.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to Center for Creative Studies and excellent woodworker. He had a place in Ann Arbor. He passed away a couple months ago.
And he's a founder of this guild?
Of the guild, yeah. He hadn't been here in a number of years, but yeah, he was one of the founding.
Do any of our long members remember him?
Yeah, I talked to a few people about him before.
Okay. Father John
Rokas.
R-O-C-U-S. Okay. Our longtime remembers certainly know Ken as the king of the jigs and fixtures. Always detail engineering, thorough explanations of how they worked. Don't know if he used all of his items to make things, but each in itself was a work of art. And matter of fact, we're going to kick off the actual presentation today with a video of Ken presenting last year. But there's Ken. Ken, I would get here early for the meetings. I'd get here at 11:30, and Ken already had the room completely set up. We go to the picnics. I try to get there early, and Ken and his wife and their crew had the picnic all set up. He received an Outstanding Service Award a couple of years ago.
He'll be well missed.
He is going to be missed, for sure. Following in the late Bill Rigstad's footsteps. So, wanted to mention that. I had sent a word out in an email shortly after he passed, but maybe not everybody saw that. Okay. But we're going to start with this special treat that Kevin has for our IT Works. Ken Wolf, who we mentioned, we want to give even those new members one chance to see Ken.
installing it for a number of times, aluminum track, put up over your benches, and have little boards or they went up and down, and you could hold your electric cords up. If you're working with a router or something, you can work that, and you don't have the cord wrapped around your neck or out your elbow or this, and but to me, it seemed like overkill. There must be a better way to do it, or a less expensive way for approval. So I decided to start with H&M PVC pipe. This is the stuff you can buy in any hardware store. And it came up with a little dolly that you could put in the cut a slot in the bottom of the pipe. And you got to make sure that slot is straight all the way down. You don't want it spiral. You want it to dance as you go. And then there's a little slider that goes in here, rides like this. I can choose a couple of options here. If I want to run a vacuum hose, you can run the hose right to one of these big rings. Electrical cord, you might want something a little different or a slightly different angle. But with a router, I usually try to have a vacuum hook up on it. In addition to an electric cord, and when you're doing a longer piece, it's kind of a nuisance to have to keep pulling this cord and unwrapping it off your elbow and so I was trying to figure out a way I could do this, and I was a little concerned on how could I get this straight slot all the way down the bottom of this pipe. And the pipe I chose was 7.5 feet long, so it's not the handy thing you can handle real easily. So I decided to use it and do it on my table saw. And this is my beautiful handcrafted ebony. And this goes against, this fastens to the fence on my table saw like this. I would be behind it in this way doing it. And in the center I had one of the finger joint blades, 1/4 inch across, give you nice clean cuts on the thing. And I chose a piece of molecular weight plastic to make a little holder out of, because it will also slide easily on its sides as well. Then you simply line it up, and I deliberately got a little slot down here that shows where you're going to come out of your pipe. I like to use a little blue line that was on my pipe to kind of know where you're going to be all the way down. And you line it up with the orientation you want on your pipe, and then you feed this pipe through. The blade is cutting in here. So I got the supported pipe sticking way out here when you first start. You slide the pipe through, cuts a slice on it, and then it immediately goes on this little guide ring. Now I can just feed it the rest of the way through and get a nice straight cut through it. And it worked like a charm. I put it together, put it up. 2 weeks later, it was somewhat stress relieved itself. And pitched this little thing back together. Not very much, maybe 32nd of an inch or whatever it was. So I got to take it back down again, reset my fence, move it over 32nd of an inch or whatever it was, reopen it up. And after it happened once, it's good forever. But if you decide to make one this way, I'd suggest you maybe cut it a little wider than 1/4 of an inch, just to accommodate it. It saves you a little headache screws that holds a pair on each end. Now the bearings are not something I commonly found. I had actually years ago stumbled on a guy that had bought a bunch of Air Force obsolete parts and was selling them at a flea market, and he had a whole 5-gallon bucket of bearings. And all them little plastic tubes had never been used. And so I bought a few different sizes, and that is a bearing I use. If any of you are interested, I have a few left. I couldn't buy the 5-gallon bucket. But I have a few of those I'd be happy to share with you if you'd like to take something like this off. I think I probably had 10 or 12 of them left or something like that. So maybe a few more. And that is it. You guys may have some other ideas. I think it would be possible to do this slitting on a router table too. If you came up with a way, perhaps hot melt. You insert on the side of it so it can't rotate, and then just simply feed it through a cutter like a 1/4 inch. It's like, a 1/4 inch would be a common cutter, a 1/4 inch slice. Move your fence over 32nd of an inch to make another slice, and you're home free that way. So there's a couple of options there. That's kind of it. Any questions on this?
How do you mount the tube?
The tube, yes, actually I have a couple of 2x2s come down from my ceiling joists, set right on top of the tube, and you got this handy slot in here, so you can get a screwdriver and a screw up in there and screw it right up through the top of this tube into, in my case, a 2x2 that's sitting on top of this, and that supports it. You adjust it to any height you need. Let's say you have 15-foot ceiling in your shop, but then you might need a little longer piece. But anyway, this is just an idea. Maybe it'll inspire something that you can see you can use it in another way. Okay, but I'll take you through some other things here. I'm try not to spend a whole lot of time here. One of the things I am very happy with is micro jigs to control router fences when you're trying to fit parts together, because you can tweak the adjustment so finely and control it. Take 3/1000ths off if you want, because your fit is just a little too tight, whatever it is. So I use those a lot with the router. And this is a common one that I use. The micro fence comes with different adapters for different router bases, so you can use them for different bases. This particular one is set up to do what I think for the cable router. There are a lot of straight edges that you can use with routers, and a lot of ways to take them in or out. I was trying to think of the universal way that you could do it, that you could adapt this to anything. This is kind of an old type, a real beefy old fence, and they used to sell them in 2-foot, 4-foot, 8-foot lengths, so you could run the full length of a piece of plywood, and it's very rigid. Some of these, most of us use most of the time, are not quite as rigid, and a little more awkward to use. But this particular one could be worked on either kind. Drop this down over the fence, and it's just slides freely up and down here. You can adjust the tightness if you get a little damp weather. Your wood swells a little bit. You can loosen it up a little, but you got a good solid base to slide this down. Your router is out here, and for me, it gave me the option of getting the full length of an 8-foot sheet. I'm a little leery of the ones that they sell you 3 little short pieces put together with screws and so forth, and having the accuracy and having the rigidity that you want, especially if you're using a bigger router making heavier cuts. So this is a very simple thing to make. This end is just simply captured in here with no free play. this end is spread through this part so that you can adjust it in or out as you need it, and you can adjust it over a wide range. The reason it's so big and clunky is because I got these big and clunky clamps, and I never really had a good way to put my micro heads to. So I do cheat a little. I put Teflon type tape on the rough surfaces here, where they're going down to make it rise smoother. I also put thin strips of it on the bottom,
You can finish.
so it slides smoother across the table. It can work without that, but it's just a little sweeter to do it this way. Any questions?
Good.
Okay. I had a couple of pictures too. Is that gonna be a problem? We don't really need to have them up there.
Why don't you start,
Okay. This crosscut
may
sled.
or may not, I hope it's not a problem, we need to use them later.
All right. This crosscut sled, it's a Tom McLaughlin design. The original portion, section here, I built this probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I bought my new table saw. But this extension piece over here, this started about a year ago when I was helping my brother-in-law Tom build new kitchen cabinets for his house. Tom's back there, by the way. Hi, Tom. He had 2 wall cabinets that were 46 inches wide and 46 inches high. So we needed a way to make sure that our plywood pieces would be dead square. So we cobbled together some, pieces of plywood and everything to make an extension for the crosscut sled over here. Then I got thinking afterwards, I said, I can do better than that. So this is what I came up with. It's pretty simple. I got 3 screws over here that attach to the main crosscut sled. I probably didn't need to make them that long, and it just disconnects. I put a biscuit in here, keep the 2 pieces of horizontal plywood in alignment. Put a piece of track fence in there, and I put a measuring tape on here, and I also got a stop block over here. So with this extension on, I can set up to make pieces, several pieces from, say, about 20 inches long all the way out to 48 inches long. And, it's very repeatable. And it's, I've checked this with a 3-foot straight edge, and it's right on. In fact, I ended up using a little bit of blue tape over here because I was off a few thousand. So, blue tape on there, it works wonders. But it does a really good job, and it's fairly simple to make. It's only, I think, 4 pieces of plywood on here, and 4 or 5 pieces, I think, and just glued it all together. Made sure my cuts were as accurate as possible, and that was that. The other little thing I brought here was this little block, and this fits on the back side of my table saw extension table. So it would mount like this. And this is actually for my crosscut sled. So when I'm using my crosscut sled, I don't go too far forward and end up cutting through the back of the sled. And then if I need to do rip, I just loosen that wing nut up, and this stop block drops down. And it's held in place with 2 wood screws. The other item I brought is my combination shooting board. This is also a Tom McLaughlin design that started, and I made a few modifications to it. But the way it's set up right now, it's for doing 45 miters, making sure they're actually 45 degrees. So all you do is is take your piece, you put it on here.
Put it on the other side, Dan.
I can't because I got it set up for this side.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then you just, you know, hold your piece and, you know, just shoot it. And I don't, you all probably aren't going to be able to see this, but it's like, you know, it's like right on. And then it's got 3 screws on here that hold it in place. The 45-degree miter attachment. And if you need to do 90 degrees, same kind of thing. And you know, it's pretty much right on. It works on either side. I've got my plane with this handle on here. That's why I can't put it over here on this side. But it'll work either way. And it's again, it's only 5 or 6 pieces of plywood. But it takes a little bit of time. Make sure you got everything as square as possible. And I also got to clean out the bottom over here that attached from the bench vise. And, you know, keep it all set. That's all I got.
Is there a certain size plane that you should use?
The longer the better, you know, at least a number 5, I would say. I wouldn't do this with, you know, maybe like a number 3 or number 4, because if you have a longer plane, you got more registration against this surface all the time. And holding the plane, you know, a lot of people will do this, and they'll try and do something like this. The best way to hold the plane is like this. And you don't have to have this little handle, but, you know, that gives you the best registration against this surface and the board that you're squaring up.
And it's a low angle?
This is a low angle. You can use a, you know, just a regular angle. But,
Is this a Lee Valley?
this is a Lee Valley,
Lee
number
Valley,
5.
Lee Valley,
Yeah.
It came with that handle?
I had, it was an extra purchase. I don't remember what the cost was, but, you know, I happened to see it in the catalog and say, hey, I could use that someday, so. But I've used either one. I've used a low angle plane on here, and I've used a regular, you know, bench plane, you know, 45, number 5, you know. I suppose you could use a number 6. Probably number 7 would be way too much. I mean, you know, because they're like 24 inches long. But, you know, number 5 or number 6, I think would work the best.
And this was also a Tom McLaughlin design?
Pretty much, yeah. And I modified it slightly, but, you know, I think as far as the thickness of materials and the materials that I use, they're probably slightly different than, you know, what his original design was. But he's got, you know, on YouTube, you can check Epic Woodworking, and, you know, he'll have videos on how to build both the shooting board and the crosscut sled. Okay? Yeah. Whoa.
No, it's okay. Balance isn't what it used to be. Thanks.
On the crosscut sled extension,
Yeah.
there's a number of years between when you built the sled and when you made the extension. Did you have any trouble with consistency of thickness of the stock?
No, because I actually had some of the material. So,
Important to plan ahead.
yeah. So, you know, that's another consideration too. If you're going to make one, you know, and you want to make an extension, I would get all the material at the same time.
Dan, there's your,
Oh, yeah, this is...
that's in action. You pretty much...
This is it in action. Well, yeah, that's it set up on my table saw.
But there's your stop.
And this is the stop. That's with the stop down. And the next picture shows it up. And you can see the back of the crosscut sled over there. So that would, you know, stop it from moving any further and, you know, cutting through the back over here and, you know, potentially cutting a thumb off or something. So, you know.
Okay.
Stepping up to take Ken's spot.
Well,
All right.
that's a compliment. Do you want me to move this?
Sure, no, you didn't have any other presenters.
Now all of a sudden, we got a bunch.
I'll try and go as quickly as I can. This first jig is for doing the juice group on a cutting board. Try not to be in your way. And a lot of my cutting boards are large. This one's just over 20 inches long. Rockler makes a similar jig. One, it's about $75, but it only has an 18-inch capacity. So I made this one just out of Baltic birch. Very simple. Just got a slot cut, a couple of hanger bolts. So now I can adjust this for whatever size board I have. And then what I did was I cut some spacer boards that sit in here. And that space gives me the exact dimension from the edge of my router to the center line, so I can get the center line of the router cutter, in this case about 3/4 of an inch from the edge. And then the router sits on the board, goes around, and the edge of that router catches the side of this jig. So you just very quickly go around, get a nice straight line, nothing wobbles around, and easier than heck to set up, dismantle it, and wrap it up and put it away. Anybody turn? If you're going to turn around, which of those would you rather start with? I hate starting from square stock. It just is so hard on the tools, it chatters, it just is tough. So this jig solves that problem. It's just a sled for your bandsaw. You can cut a 45 on your table saw, but a lot of times I'm starting with rough stock, and it might have a little bit of a twist, or it might not be flat. I don't like running that on my table saw. If I'm going to put something on the table saw, I want to make sure it's flat and the slide right. So what you do is, this sits on the bed, on the table of the bandsaw, the blade is here, and then you run this through, and you adjust that blade off of the fence to cut just the corner of that piece off. So 4 quick passes, and you've got an octagon. Now if I'm turning, all I want to do is knock the corners off, and then I can go put it on the lathe. If I wanted to, I can be a little more careful with my adjustment, run the octagon, and because you've got a bandsaw, you've got a rough surface, 1 or 2 passes with a hand plane, and you got a nice clean octagon. I made this to do the corners off of pieces. But what I found was, I was making a stool, steak legs, and I wanted to put a notch in the end of the leg for a wedge. I wondered, how do I hold that? If you take this and align it so the blade is right down the center of this thing, I can run that through. If you had a round dowel and you wanted to slice it in half, run it through, you get the 2 halves. If you have a square and you want to cut that thing in half along the diagonal, again, run it through, cut it right in half. And this just sits on the bandsaw table, register this against the fence, and then just one clamp on the table holds it in place. Pretty quick and easy.
So how's the bandsaw blade, when you're cutting down the middle, when it's in there, how does it not cut your jig?
Because the jig doesn't move. The jig is fixed.
Oh, I see.
The bandsaw blade, the blade is right here where my finger is.
Yeah.
And then you're sliding the workpiece through.
Okay.
And this is just made with, a piece of stock cut to 45, 1 long one, and then 2 with just a space for the blade. Another thing, I started from turning. Piece of firewood in one turn. Well, this end was good. It's kind of tough to put that on the lathe. Again, I don't like putting wobbly things on my table saw. Also, if I had a larger piece that was bigger than the capacity of my table saw, I made this cutoff sled. So this just rides in the miter gauge on the table. And then this is a 0 clearance to the blade. So the blade's right here. So I can just put this in here, slide this across the table, and get a nice clean edge. And then this is adjustable forward and back, so I can, if I have different diameter, different sizes, So it's very useful for doing something quick like this, but also if you had something round or irregular shape, or really anything you wanted to cross-cut that was larger than the capacity of your table saw. This works really well. I love table saw sleds. This is a sled I made for doing miters. So it's pretty simple. Do a miter. The very first sled I made, so I got my board, I got the runners on, I went to put the fences on, and I was being as careful as I could with square and a triangle, getting that fence set perfect. Clamped it down, checked that everything's fine. So I don't know if my clamp was offset just a little bit or just glue creep. It dried, I measured it, and I was off just ever so slight. It's like, now you're screwed, what do you do? I can't fix that. So all of my sleds now, I cut an oversized hole. So I came as close as I can. Now I've got just a ½ degree of freedom, so I can adjust that. And what I do here is I'll put it on the table saw. I'll put a large precision triangle here and set it to my fence. Lock this one down, put the triangle back here, set it to this fence. Now I'm square. And then I added some stop blocks. So if you're doing a frame or anything, you want the two opposite sides to be exactly the same. So I can cut the one, come back, use that same stop, and I know I'm exactly the same. Pretty simple to use, but I changed the game after I got rid of trying to use my standard miter gauge on my table saw. Didn't like it. All right, so I'm going to deviate a little bit from just pure fixtures. I talked to Jerry, said, well, you have tools, things that make other things. These are a couple of planes that I made. This is a Krunoff style plane. So this is a plane James Krunoff designed, and he taught his students at the College of Redwood, now the Krunoff School in Redwood, California. This is about the equivalent of a number 4 smoothing plane. And I mean, it works pretty nice, just easy to use. This is made out of Coca-Cola. This is a joiner made out of maple. It's 18 inches long. If I'm joining some 4/4 or 5/4 stock that's 5 foot long for a tabletop, I want the longest, heaviest plane I got. So I'm going to grab my number 8. If I need to joint that, a number 8 is kind of overkill. It's hard to control it. And I can put this in here. And now I can just grab this thing with my hands. I can register, I can feel that I'm square, and I can joint this edge. So I reach for this anytime I'm doing any joining on a piece of stock that's less than a ½ inch thick. This is my go-to tool. If you do veneer work, you have to book match or slip match pieces. This is a small version. I have a 6 foot long setup like this. If you take your veneer and sandwich it between 2 boards, and I want this protruding about a 16th, maybe an 1/8 inch at most. Set that down. Now you take your joiner right along the table and joint that, and you're going to get a perfect straight veneer edge. So I can take those and put them together, and I'll have a perfect seam. I use this one a lot. The irons in both of these are made by Ron Hock. So these are available. These are A2 tool steel that's been cryo-treated. It comes with the iron and a cap piece that goes with it. And they're available in a couple different sizes. That iron is 5 millimeters thick. That's about 3/16. To give you a point of reference, Lee Nielsen, which makes some of the best irons I know of, their standard iron is 1/8 of an inch thick. So this is 50% thicker. If you take a vintage Stanley Their irons are about 7/64s or about 0.1. So this is 3 times as thick as what's on the Stanley. This thing just, it runs smooth. The other thing about it,
Do they make a curved blade?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I've only used the square ones. Hawk also makes replacement blades for Stanley planes. So I actually bought an A2 cryo-treated iron for my Stanley number 4, and it's great. These planes don't have any lateral adjustments. That's also true with a number of block planes or shoulder planes or spoke shapes. So what you have to do is tap the iron one way or another. All right, so I have a few hard rules in my shop. Never ever hit a piece of wood with a steel hammer. If you're out in construction, that's fine, but you're woodworking, no. And a steel hammer, it's fine. You want to use on a steel punch, go ahead. I don't like to hit this iron with a steel hammer. It's too hard. So even though you're just tapping it, I guarantee over time, you're going to mushroom that edge, you will dent it. So this is a brass hammer that I made. Just a simple piece of brass turned. The other thing is, you're moving at less than a 16th or less than a thousandth at a time. You don't need a big hammer. This thing's only about 10 ounces. So it gives you nice, simple. The other thing about the wood planes is you can tap them forward. To get them to retract, you do have to hit it from the back, and that'll back it out. So that's why I put a piece of wood on that side. So this is a great tool to go along with planes. And then finally, just a couple of mallets that I use for tools. Built this one almost 20 years ago. It's made out of a lamination of Coca-Cola and lignobitide. This is actually hollow, and then filled with lead shots with a dead blow hammer. And this is ugly and beat up, and just shows that that's what happens after 20 years of use. But it's still good. Leather face, so I don't have to take a piece of sacrificial wood and use that for assembly. I can hit it with this thing and not worry about denting my piece. So I use this a lot in, testing the assemblies, or if I have to knock it down. And then the final one was, I acquired a piece of kingwood. Kingwood is a rosewood out of South America. But it had this really nice sapwood edge on it, and I always thought I had to do something with it. I thought that'd make a really nice handle. So I made another mallet. The head is African blackwood, so this one's solid. But then to increase the weight, I inlaid some brass plates on either side. Plane adjusting, about 10 ounces. The dead blow is 16 ounces. This one's 24 ounces. But that extra weight means that when you're doing that assembly, you don't have to swing this thing. You can just tap it. You're not going to do a lot of damage, but there's a lot of momentum behind it. Okay. So,
All right, that was Jeff Street. All right, yeah. Bob Mills. Raise your hand, Bob. Bob's been a member for 40 years. Okay, this is Paul Toma, who has some antique there.
Yeah, I'm going to be real quick on this, just since Jerry was saying you're short on jigs. This is one that I was going to make, and then I found this in a estate sale, and I spend all the time making the jig when I find one that does what I need. But I represent for some hand tool work. This is called a miter jack. Generally what happens is you clamp this bottom side into your bench, your workbench. Works especially well if you have a wagon vise or tail vise on the end. And it's a registration surface for doing fine tuning of like 45. Especially if you have a complex fitting, like I do some work making like windows and doors, where the muntins have 45 pieces and straight, so you can't do a plane straight through, but you want to be able to get in with a chisel and get that face dialed in and, just shaving, we're shaving off thousands at a time. So the idea is you clamp your piece that you want to tune up into this. It gives you a good solid registration surface. If you're going to use a hand plane, the more you hit this with a blade, you're going to mess up the surface. So I use like some blue tape, a layer on either side, just so it elevates my plane blade a little bit above it, and I can get that dialed in for when you want those good gapless 45s. So this is a fixture that it's tried and true and have been used for hundreds of years. There's some versions online. You can buy the kit or the plans. Red Rose Reproductions is one of them that sells a version of this that includes not just the 45, but has a little latch, and it brings out a 22.5 angle as well, so you can do a couple different degrees. So I just want to share that in case anyone was thinking about making one of these, or what would we like to have, get one of these or build one. I figured want to take a look at this example. So,
Paul, where did you happen to find that?
The estate sale from another woodworker. I imagine a lot of my tools have gone through many hands before they got to me, and my job is to try to take care of them and use them until, keep them being used until I pass them to somebody else, I guess.
Have you any guess as to how old that might be?
Based on the hardware, it looks like it's a user-made. It could easily be 100 years old. So probably a couple generations of woodworkers before me have used this one before I got it. But it works really well, so I wanted to share it.
Thank
That's
you.
all.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah, so I'm Keith. Talking about signing your work. So first of all, start with why. Why would you want to sign your work? Okay, one,
Excuse me,
there
one
might
second.
be
Who's got the microphone?
where's the... Oh, yeah, here we go. Thank you, and thank you. Okay, now you can hear me. So, sign your work.
Keith, can you repeat what's your last, Keith?
White House.
White House, okay, thank
Just
you.
like where our friend Trump is at. So anyway, why sign your work? Okay, there's several reasons you might want to sign it. One is commemorate something, happy birthday, Merry Christmas type of thing. You might want to put on there, maybe the type of wood it is. For example, I made a end grain cutting board, very similar for my son, and I made it out of some award plaques on a wall from his grandparents. So I just put that on the back of that. And the date, or even just sign your name if you sell it. And the other thing, honestly, I'm going to make a prediction here, is that it'll add value. So think about this: a Van Gogh painting. If he didn't sign it, it wouldn't be worth hardly anything. So I predict one day somebody's going to bid a lot of money in something that Jerry Romito has made. It's like, oh, this is a Jerry Romito thing, and they're going to auction it off for a lot of money, Jerry. That's my prediction for you. So, there you go. So the first thing is, the simplest thing is a Sharpie. You can just sign your word with a Sharpie. The other thing that I have done is labels, just inkjet labels. They make in a lot of different colors. What I like to do is just use a clear label here. You get like a shot of this one corner right down here. Yeah, there you go. Well, so you get the idea there. So anyway, so you put on there what you want. And so, for example, this is something I made for my wife for Christmas a few years back. It says, whenever you're scared of something, don't let that define you. We all feel it. But step up. So kind of cheesy, but what do you expect from an engineer here? So the last way I'd like to talk about is actually engraving something. So maybe Dave, you get a shot of this. This is something that actually my daughter and I made for her husband. So this just says, a handcrafted Viking chess set, lovely made for Emery, her husband, by Bethany and Kid. That's my nickname. And I put the date on there, 2025. So the way that I engrave that is using one of these tools. I'm sure a lot of you have this, actually made from metal more than it is for wood. It's just a vibrating thing, it vibrates. So you can do that freehand. or you can make a template. You just, again, word processor, and the thing I like about this is you can get the style, the font that you like, and then you get the right size. That you say, okay, well, you're kind of limited by the numbers, the space here, so you just have this. Then you can tape this on. So here's an example. This is just my initials, for example. You just tape it on here, and you just use that, and just start out very lightly to get a groove, and then go a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. The key here is to practice with it. So save any cutoffs you have from your project to try this. So this one was painted to give a lot of contrast here. And the way to do that, first of all, you'd have to seal the wood so the paint doesn't seep in too much. Seal it, do the engraving, spray paint it, and then you can then take and, yeah, so then you have this guy here, this engraved, and spray paint it, and then you just take and sand this off. And then, so here it is after it's been sanded and sealed here. Now that being said, there are some problems with the paint idea. So for example, open grain wood like this, being oak, is it tends to get in all the pores. By the time you sand the paint off, your engraving goes away. So, but on the other hand, you don't even have to worry about even the paint thing. You can actually just stain it, and you still have a pretty good engraving there for that. So anyway, so that is that. And I am going to now put Jeff on the spot here. I just happen to notice on his, he has got his marked here. So maybe I'll ask him, how did you do that, Jeff?
Those are a set of punches.
Punches, okay, that's another way to do it.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with your signing thing. I learned my lesson first out of college, throwing paper, and he came back from my boss with all kinds of red, and then he looked at it and he said, if it's important, put a date on it. If you're proud of it, put your name on it. And if you can't do both of those things, then why did you bother doing it? So it stuck with me. So everything I make, if it leaves the shop, it's have my name and the date on it.
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
The clear message that you had there that looked like, Scotch, packing tape. Can you put shellac or like a polyurethane over that to preserve it?
You could, I would experiment with that. I didn't do that. I put it on after it's finished. Is exactly right. My fear is that whatever lacquer or whatever you put on it will get underneath it and dissolve the adhesive.
I've done a transfer like that for a sign, but then I
have a pantograph, a little mechanical pantograph from probably 45 years ago that's made for a Dremel tool. So you could literally, you can change the size, increase or decrease it, but you can trace what you want with the scribe, and the other end is going to cut it out exactly the way you did, whether it's letters or pictures, but it's old, but I forgot about it, and about 2 weeks ago I went, what's this? Tucked away, but it does work that way, and it gives you a very precise cut.
There you go. Meyer, going to talk about his Adirondack chair.
Right. I bought a locker kit, template kit for Adirondack chair, and you get a set of instructions first off, and a set of cardboard templates. Now that's the first cover page of the chair that we're building here. The next slide I want to show you, okay, you got it? It gives you a parts list, so you can develop your bill of material from the parts list and put together an optimum bill of material. Put some pieces together on a piece of paper so you can figure out what size boards or how many pieces of wood you want to buy. And then the next page you get a set of assembly instructions. There's one more picture. There you go. They show you how to put this thing together step by step. It's pretty good instructions. So you see the main piece. you get the cardboard templates that look like this. It comes in a package about so long. And first thing I do is I make a plywood template out of this, because about one cut on real wood with this would be destroyed. So I make a plywood template so I can make a number of chairs if I want to. So I take each template and make a plywood piece, and then I use that to profile the pieces. You see, this is the side piece, the main side piece. The only problem I have with this a little bit is that this tail end is longer than I think it really needs to be, because I walk behind and trip over it. So other than that, it's a really good chair. It's comfortable and people love it. This is the chair in the templates in my wood shop. So I really did make this thing. And I did not take this picture this morning. But it looks like we'll be able to do that tonight when we get home. This was taken the last snowstorm, which was early April this spring. So I built the thing in the shop in the wintertime. I had to wait till it warmed up enough outside so I'll go out and spray paint the thing. So that's what I did. So then it snowed after I got it done. So this is good directions, a good template kit. Now, this is the second rocker kit, template kit I made. So, so sometimes you see a little bit of difficulty with it, but you work through it. So that's it.
All right.
Initial cut, and then start moving back to get to the finished cut. So that worked pretty good. Next slide. So there it is, where you can see the guide at the bottom going on it, and then router bit cutting it. This is a finished part. I would make them a little longer, and then just cut that off again, since you unfortunately have a very flat surface that made it easy. Next slide. And that's basically the whole unit on the lathe. You can see the hole downs there and under there. And he made adjustments in that, so I can slide it back and forth. If I had to change the in and out on it, two things I could do. I could adjust that, or I can move this forward or back, that thing that's holding the template. So I think the only changes I would make is try to get something that more replicates a turning tool. Yes?
Would you just they have turning tools with carbide inserts.
Yes.
And they make a point of it.
Yes.
So it seems like where you've mounted that tool bit, you could just capture the lathe tool itself.
Yeah. And that's why if I'm requested to make dozens more of these days, I will probably do that.
His client didn't budget that.
Any other questions?
Do you rough turn that first?
What's that?
Do you rough turn that part first and then?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I put some lines on it to give me my high and low point, and kind of rough it out, really some of that stop. Question?
Do you have any problems with keeping the jig, your handheld thing square to the tool? To the piece?
As long as you're following that curve at the right angle, it works great. If you go like that, it's not going to work. So you got to make sure you're moving it to follow the pattern of that template. So you're going like this. Do that, and it works really good. Questions?
So you were going, rather than perpendicular to the axis, you were going perpendicular to the surface you were aiming for.
Exactly. Yes. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work very well.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, I got two items I'm going to show here.
This is Larry last, by the way, for those of you.
Larry last.
Comes in first.
Yeah, first. Yeah, when I was married, my wife was the oldest of three girls, and so they put on the marquee, "Last Wedding." The other two girls went crazy. "Don't, Dad, say it isn't true." So I've heard several jokes, I think. But the last is the thing you build a shoe on, actually. It's still called that, a steel form, I guess. Anyways, this is my router table. And I probably built this 30, 35 years ago, I don't know. but it's perfect, okay? It really works for me. And alls it is a 3/4 plywood, you know, oak veneer kind of thing. And then what I did is put the base on it, and then I carved that out so it's only 1/4 inch thick here. And the reason for that is the thickness here you're taking away for how high your bit can go. And so, you know, if you have 2 inches, you're out of business because you only got so much travel. So it's got a 1/4 inch instead of the 3/4. And I found that not to be a problem. I have 2 of these actually. And this one has, I'll just say 1 1/4 hole in it. Okay, and so this is for smaller bits. And then the same with this. This may look, I think I did this on Dave's CNC. But I just carved that out somehow so it's a clearance. But what's the beauty of this machine is it doesn't have an insert. So when you go across it, smooth as can be, you know, you're not going to catch the top. Okay. And what's the other key thing to it is I got a simple wall switch here. So this is how you turn it on and off. And the other key thing that you can do wrong, and this one here I did right, the second one I did wrong, so I had to redo it. But basically, how to change bits, what I do is actually take this out, okay, and then I keep the handles right here, take it up here, take it apart, put it back together. But this has to go down enough that you can pull it out. And so that's a real key thing to do. Like this could be, if it's too short, how do you get it in? So you know that right away. but the thing is, this fits, and this is the second router I've had in it. But that's the key things on it. But this thing has made many thousands of feet of stuff. I mean, I've had it, every project runs across this thing. And then I put a shop vac here to pull the chips out. It gets about 80%, okay? It's not perfect because you've got so much room around here. Some of them are driven down. Sometimes what I'll do, the other version I've got has got a great big hole, okay? It's for bigger bits. And what I do there is I just lay a plywood on top of this and then put this proper size hole around it so it fits, but it doesn't have so much clearance. And then you clamp this on top, and this is just held with C-clamps, so you can move it around. And then I wax this is all, and then rounded the edges, just so I don't hurt myself, I guess. But you can tell that I've had this a long time. Some of you guys will remember these. I think in the 1800s, we used bits like this. You know, that had the steel here, and you know, they dulled, and they were 50 cents each or whatever. You know, before they had the carbide tools, and so that's when I built this thing. So it's been that long ago. It stays in there because I don't know what to do with it, and type stuff. But it works well, and then this here is where I run tests to make sure that, you know, I'm getting more or less what I want. Just run across it like that, and I usually put this so it's just a 30-second proud of this, so I'm really on the bearing, so I'm getting, you know, a nice pretty curve. That's what I always want. But this is a really simple way to go, and like I say, without having the insert. Where I volunteer, they have an insert, and you're always catching an edge, and it, you know, it's really sensitive to everything, you know, and especially humidity, it moves around and everything. This is one piece, so it's great that way. And like I say, the downside is that it's thicker than a piece of aluminum would be, so you're losing that little bit of. And I went for a 1/4 inch on this, okay. And so, but anyways, I encourage anybody, especially new guys or people who like building things, you know, you can buy one for $300 or $400. You can make this for stuff you got laying around kind of thing. And the idea is, you know, I'm a shorter guy. There's the height I want right there. it through twice, golden. So anyways, yeah, and the router fit goes into this, so that's on a, and then this other wire goes into the wall. So like I say, it's real safe. Some of the ones you buy, you know, they seem to want you to reach in here and turn it on and off. I said, oh my God, you know, I know how that'll work for me. You know, I'd have stubs all over the place. So that's my router table. We're old friends. We've liked each other for a long time. It'll continue, and I've got 2 of them.
How do you hold the router?
Oh, this is the fixed base that comes with it.
Okay.
Okay, and so what I do is when you first make this, you lay it on there, mark where the holes are, and then you get, so you drill those, and then you get conical heads on them, flat heads, or angled heads, I guess, and put those in there. And what I do is put them slightly low on the surface. You know, it could be even, but just don't have them sticking up. And so it's permanently there. And of course, you know, I've got the plunge base that goes with this router, but this one is really never, this one's here in here all the time. The other one, I just got the fixed base there, and when I go to use it, I take it out of the plunge base and stuff it in. And I make a lot of windows, as Jerry was saying earlier. And so it's really nice for that, because I can put the cope side here, stick side on the other, dial them in so it's real pretty, everybody thinks I'm good. You know, make one part here, make the other part, they come together, you know, it's real, you know, kind of showing off a little bit. So it works out really well, but I'd encourage anybody to make something like that.
Jerry, that piece of wood, do you have your name?
Yeah, I was proud of this. Who was it just a minute ago said, if you're proud of it, put your name on it.
You put the date?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. Before we had the training.
You don't want to go too far, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't have the training then. But
Larry,
you know,
let's see that.
what it is I put my branding iron on most things I make, and people like it. You know, they really sets you apart. I think they, oh boy, it's handmade. Well, can't you tell? No, I can't. Oh, really? But always there's a test to make sure it's hot enough or something. So that's what this is. These are, there you go. See, I'm quite proud. See, it's got a little groove in it. I have no idea what it's about.
Do you know what the table height is there?
No. It's what?
33?
49. Okay, let's go with 31 and a quarter. Roughly 3/8 maybe, something like that. But it's just whatever suits you.
Built to suit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, taller guy might put 40 inches, you know, whatever. The other one is higher. And the reason is when I'm doing the coat cut, I really want to see it and make sure it's perfect. Okay, that's the router table, but anybody, you know, we all like building things, this is what we do. So to buy it, you say, oh no. So this here is really a nice way to go, it's quite easy. Dave will draw you plans if you want. The other thing I made, and this one surprised me. What I've got is, I got my table saw, got an OC table, then I got a low bench, okay, and it's for the other version of this that sits on top of it. And so it was low, and I said, what am I gonna do? So I made this little mini bench, and I can take this to the mother-in-law's where I'm bored to tears, and take this, and I've got a workbench, and I can build things, okay? So I'm out in the garage building things. I don't know what they do in there to talk. But nonetheless, this is another simple thing. It's an oak top, and it's 14 inches wide. I just cut it and ran it through my planer, then biscuited it together, so it's a nice flat thing. It's 34, I think. Okay, yeah, 34. And then I put a shelf in here. I have mixed feelings on that. Reason why I have mixed feelings, it holds a lot of stuff. So I'm working away here, throw this here, it just tricks crap, you know, just junk. You know, what I'm trying to do is put shop towels here and sandpaper here, but it catches all sorts of other stuff. But the other thing that works out nice here is, again, this was just meant to be a simple thing. It wasn't meant to, every project I work on runs over this. I've got the real nice vise and the tables and all that stuff, runs over this. This was an $8 vise at Lowe's. Doesn't have a dog on it. So this is just held with double stick tape. So I made it a little taller, you know, so you can clamp something, you know, then you just take your plane and, oops, you adjust it so it catches. That way it's auto adjustment. Ooh, what's going on here? But, you know, you just do that real quick. And, you know, often, you know, you just hit this as well. Where that works is I like making boxes. And when this is the groove for the plywood. Often they seem to be like a 30-second off on the height. And so what I do is clamp it in here, take your plane, go around it, smooth it out, and then do both sides. And because when you cut the groove in another table saw, I got two, they have to line up. And if there's that 30-second off, then these are 30-second off. And plywood doesn't bend that well. But, and the thing, there's not much, this is a simple design. It's just meant to be from here to it's a 1/2 inch low of my outfeed table, so the wood comes off and can drop on it. If you try to hit it on edge, you seem to always lose. With the spacing of my dog holes here, this here has to be able to go more than that dimension. Okay, so don't make these 6 inches and this goes 5, because then you've got a place where you can't clamp. You know, so it's real important you keep that in mind. But this is, like I say, these two are probably my favorite tools in the shop, and they're simple things that, you know, it's crank pocket screws. You know, I do lots of Morrison tenon out of this. Yeah. This is just slap it together and say, yeah, that looks good. And the only thing I'd probably do different on this is a flat piece of wood, and my bench top is flat, so it's not a big deal. But if I do it again, I'd make sure that this is hollowed out so that you're really getting a stable platform. Like I say, I just happen to be lucky and my thing is flat, but I wouldn't count on that on most things. So I put the feet so they're up just a little bit. You could just throw a 1/4 inch plywood under each corner and glue it on. You don't have to get too fancy with all this stuff. But anyways, that's two of my favorite items, so I'll just share them with you guys. Hopefully you each build them and we're in business.
All right, you're in business. Believe it or not, Larry makes a lot of precision windows out of those.
Yeah, these things here. Yeah, I love making windows.
It shows us those windows.
Yeah, you have to be exact.
Okay.
How many people, when you were growing up, had a log cabin? How many people had a kit for a log cabin? Yeah, Lincoln Logs, I'm sorry, Lincoln Logs. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm brain dead that time. Lincoln Logs. Well, a number of years ago, I saw in the Wood magazine, issue 221, that they had a set of plans to make Lincoln Logs. Well, of course, they couldn't call it LINCOLN logs. They had to rename it for copyright purposes. So, but they had this in there. I said, boy, this would be a neat thing to make. So I sat around for about 3 years, and at the time, I was working at FCSD, Ford Customer Service Division. They received a lot of different pallets with components on it. Well, some of the things they would receive were like body panels. And they'd have this pallet that was 8 foot long, 4 foot wide, and it hold just a little small a very, very little small body panel on it, waste of pallet wood. But they must have gone to a tool and die shop, because these pallets would be made of exotic materials. It was common for them to be made of white oak and black walnut. This one happened to be made of poplar, and we had 4x4 poplar runners. Well, long story short, I harvested the pallet one afternoon, brought the wood home, and made this Lincoln log cabin, Lincoln log project. It starts out by making a group of not extrusions, I call them extrusions, but it started out by making a group of parts that are square. This is one of the final ones. Parts that are square, and they needed to have these notches put in them. These notches aren't straight. They're like 15 degrees. The system that Wood had shown was using a miter gauge on a table saw, where they just attach stuff to the miter gauge. And I'm thinking, well, my fingers got really, really too close to that, and I like my fingers. I like, typing and stuff like that. So what I came up with is a group of sleds to not only make these grooves at the correct angle, to clean out the material, and then to come back and finish the material off. So the first sled that I...
On a table saw?
On a table saw. Yep, on a table saw. So the first sled happened to be this guy. And unlike what Ken Wolf used to do and what Dan does and everybody else, they use primary birch plywood. Not me. I use stuff that I got just laying around. And as you can see, this happened to be an old plaque that I made for a retirement plaque for this chief engineer. I made it on the CNC. This was the first prototype. So I had the wood hanging around, and I was like, well, it's never going to get used. Might as well use it. Made this sled. It fits into the table saw. And as you can see, each side has 15-degree angle on the side of it. The piece of wood, square in its current shape, piece of wood fits in here, and the notches are made on both sides. One side and then the other. Let's see if I got it adjusted right. No, I don't. But if you see, the stop is here. And then I flip it over to the other side. And then I take it to the opposite side of the jig and cut the other side of the notch. These fences are sliding, so they can get adjusted wherever needed. That cuts the 15-degree slot. Then to cut out the majority of the material in the slot that now has just got these two grooves on either side. I take it to Grandpa's table saw, where I have a dado blade permanently set up, and I clean out the material, but it leaves a very rough surface, one side and then the other side. Leaves a very rough surface, and I didn't like that very much, so then I took it to the router table, and I made a unique sled for the router table. And the router table, the bottom portion of this gets clamped to my router table, and then this secondary sled gets put on top, and I then adjust it or run it through a square router bit, square topped router bit. And that's just to get a very, very clean, very clean surface in here. Other than that, the dado blade didn't leave that clean of surface. At least I didn't like it. Then after that, we get to cut them. We cut them with a jig that I attached to my chop-off saw. again, positioned so that we get the correct length of the materials. Final steps are to put this groove in. Put these grooves in right here. Put these grooves in. It's the final step. And then the old half-round router bit in the router table gives us the barrel-shaped geometry. Over 250 pieces. So whatever I did needed to be production.
For that
Production
cabin?
set. That's actually one. I made, there's another, there's a secondary one. But yeah, that's one. I can make two, but over 250 pieces.
Do all the logs have grooves, or is it just where like the doors and windows, or?
All the logs have grooves. And all the logs have grooves because when, and we don't have ospreys, so, but when the kids put this together, we don't know which part they're going to use in each one of the layers. So all the logs have grooves. And if you notice, it's a stop dado. It doesn't go through the total part of, it doesn't go through the total line. It's a stop dado. This was a fun project. This was a very, very fun project.
So you start with square.
Correct.
Square, with all those cuts, and then you go with the router at the very end.
Correct. And it's a 3/4 radii round-off router.
What size square do you start with?
It's not really a square. Okay. It's more of a rectangle. So it's like 1.5 inches by, well, it's about 1.25 inches by 1.5 inches. Which was a lot of fun cutting it out of that 4x4 piece of poplar, because it quickly overheated my dual table set. Quickly overheated it, so that was fun.
I may have missed you saying this earlier, but did you have plans for the?
Yes, Wood Magazine.
Wood Magazine.
Wood Magazine in issue number 221 had plans of how to make these log cabins. And not only do they have plans to make the logs themselves, but also the roof and the chimneys and the like. This was a fun project. I think the next one I make, I'm going to make a black walnut, because I think that would make it really good. I've got another fixture here, and I don't know if everybody can see this, but Ken Wolf, when we visited Ken Wolf's shop one year, Ken Wolf showed us this fixture he had made to generate hand wheels, handles. And basically what Ken Wolf's design does is it's got a template here, and what it would do is you'd take a Forstner bit and you'd follow the holes and rotate this in the drill press to cut the 5 openings. Well, both Dan Holowicki and I made one of these templates. And we're like, okay, so you got the drill press, you're trying to pull down on the drill press, you got to start the drill press, and you got to align it. Well, you really want 2 hands to align it, and 1 hand to pull down the drill press, to pull the Forstner bit into activity. And it's kind of like, well, where's the 3rd hand coming from? We couldn't turn on we get everything all set up, and then when we turn on the drill press, everything would get misaligned. So we brought that up to Ken for a second, and Ken said, oh, you don't have a foot switch for your drill press? No, no. So this is Ken Wolf's design. Well, I kind of like to keep things stationary when I'm working on the drill press, so we did a little bit of design work here and generated this fixture. Again, it's a fixture to make a fluted handle. What we do is we lock it in place, and then we index it to the next hole, and then index it to the next hole. And as you can see on the bottom, we have a set of index keys. and another set of index keys that was made with the handy dandy 3D printer and designed first off. But anyway, it indexes. That way you keep the drill, the Forstner drill, coming down the same spot every single time, and it frees up your hand to actuate the drill. So it's just a little modification of Ken Wolf's original design. By the way, these handles are really good. I make stuff of pine, so everything I do is all cheap and pine, but Ken made some of his of some very good exotic wood. Around this area in here, these chamfers. I typically take it to the router table and put a 45-degree chamfer all the way around. It's not that hard, and it takes like, you know, a minute or so. But yeah. Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Hello. I actually have two things. The first quick one, a lot of us have built these sleds that put on our fences and things like that. And one of the nice things about this, match fit system is that these clamps work really well. Well, one of the myths that goes around is that you have to pre-cut these with an 1/8 inch depth, an 8 inch wide blade before you do that. I did this on just regular Baltic birch, and I cut it without doing that, and they just came out perfect. So, you know, buyer beware, but you don't really need to pre-cut that before you do it. So anyway, so that's that. Then
these are Miles Craft
yes,
jigs,
yes.
and these are Notice, everybody, if you would please, notice that the slotted hole here is not a slot; it's a dovetail.
Right.
And the beauty of the dovetail is when you pull it tight, it pulls tight, and it won't pull through the T-slot.
And it's got enough beef underneath it. It's at a 14-degree angle, I believe.
Yep.
It's got enough beef to hold it down, and nothing moves on there. But if you read the literature, they tell you have to do that. I just don't understand it. Anyway.
It's a great system.
Thank you.
I have a question. What would you use that for, sir?
If you're wanting, as a pathologist, I don't like to get my hands all necked up. So, let's say you have a piece like this and you want to cut an angle here, or like you're trying to develop you're putting this is a top and you're trying to make a nice cut to make it a tapered look or something. You want to put it in here, and then you can cut that, and then you come over here and you put this on. Now your hands are totally free just to guide it in your saw on the what's the word?
Table saw.
Fence, the table saw fence. And this is made for my fence, and as you can see, I had some emotional problems trying to get the right distance, but it is good enough square for my fence.
So is there a standard name for that type of jig? I can't think of it.
There is a name, and I can't think of it.
You could use it as a tenon jig too.
It has a
right?
tenon jig, yes. That's what I originally did it.
A what?
Tenon jig.
How thick of a
I use
material?
it as a clamping system
I put
on my
3/4 inch
drill
without
press.
any problem.
Oh, okay.
And this is
Ultimately
adjustable.
flexible.
Yeah.
The beauty of these clamps are you can talk anything. But I do make boxes and things where I want a nice end, you know, where you can't, it's like a goofball angle, like 8 degrees, and I really, that's what I want. And I can do this, and I don't have to get my hand anywhere. It used to be, you know, you hold it like this and go like that, and by the third time you lure it, this would get fatigued, and the whole thing would just be bad. This is boom, boom, boom. It works out really great. And not to give Wood Magazine a big kudos, but this is two great minds at one point. Jerry and I both made the same jig.
and they're actually pretty close. His is a little cuter than mine, but, and it's for small parts, and I like making boxes, and I like doing designs and things around the top and mitering out things and this and that. Well, when you're doing small pieces of wood, obviously you don't want to get your finger closer than 3 inches, and you can't do everything on a bandsaw. So this is my motivation when I saw this article, was to say that's what I want to do. So this is a simple jig. Mine happens to be the defensive tackle version of this. They told us I did exactly. I told my wife I was going to do exactly what they said, not what I thought I would do. So I probably would have made it like Jerry if he did. But anyway, I used the big bottom on this so it won't warp or things like that. So this is a nice 3/4 inch Baltic birch. And then the key to this, though, which I found really fascinating, is they had you on the stays. They had you like put it at an angle, and I think it's like 12 degrees or 14 degrees. Well, that angle really makes a huge difference in. Makes a huge difference in holding down this small. Here's a 1/8 inch piece of wood, and you cannot move it. So the point is, and this goes up and down here, and you can actually. Jerry says, I'll do Jerry's too. Jerry has a stop block here. He has like a little longer. Mine's for a little shorter ones, but it's sort of the same idea. But you push it. All right, so let's say you want to cut like 1/8 off of there. You can come down like that, come like this, and you put it in your saw, and you're a happy person. So, and it really is very, very versatile. Like this? Yeah. It's very, very versatile. It looks like it took a long time, really. You know, it's like one football game worth of stuff watching in the shop, which is what I tend to do sometimes. And I put it together, and I had these runners from, I think, the first year I went into woodworking, which was 35 years ago, because that's my daughter was 5 years old. And I said, well, I have to use these for something, so I put them on here. They work pretty good. You just have. The nice thing is you can shave them, or you can actually plane these out, and they'll fit right in the thing, so it's nice and tight. But that's really good. I would recommend. If you're doing small pieces, it's really very, very handy. And then if you have to repeat them, especially if you're making let's say you've got a tile that you want on the top of on a box, well, you can make a nice miter thing to go around it, and it looks professional. It looks like you know what you're doing. And that was it. It was in. October 23rd, Wood Magazine, and then just to show you, I'm a little like loony. I actually just made this cabinet down at Mark Adams last week. So it was a good addition for Gary's version. But that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. But don't poo-poo the idea with the angles, which I said that's not really once you get it on there, you really get an idea, and then you can even, if you want to, which I'll probably do, is put some sandpaper on here just to hold. There you go. Some sandpaper on the edges just to hold a little better. It kind of looks like I knew what I was doing, although Jerry's is much cuter. But he used, I used oak. He used a little cherry here, I think. Is this right, Jerry?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Leftover stuff.
But Jerry doesn't know when to stop his saw. He's got a big metal handle here. I can stop mine really quick. But anyway, thanks. Thanks, guys.
All right.